Today we have our special guest, Nick Finger, on the podcast. Nick Finger has been in the industry for 11 years now, growing his way from being a sales rep to a leader to owning his own installation company for past several years to now working as a division leader within SpartanX, and not just a division leader within SpartanX. You know, he has installed over 800 solar systems in his career, and at SpartanX, he's currently pacing to do 150 to 200 a month. And the crazy part about his rapid recent growth is that he started with almost nothing this year, rebuilding from scratch. So this podcast is not going to be educational in the sense that it's just a training. This is going to be transformational. Tune in. This is going to be a good one.
SpartanX.
What's up, Nick? How you doing, man?
I'm blessed.
Stoked to have you on my Costa Rica podcast.
Yeah,
I plan on only doing podcasts from here from now on.
I love your office, man.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, right?
Yeah.
So, Nick, I know I just gave a little intro on you, and you've been in the industry for 11 years. I want to take the people back in time for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because even myself, right, I've heard some of the stories, but who is Nick Finger? Where did Nick Finger come from? I'd love to get a little snippet of your bio, like how you grew up to make you the person you are today.
Yeah.
Before you got into solar.
Yeah, so Nick Finger, man. First and most importantly, I'm a child of God. I'm a husband and I'm a father. You know, titles are important, but those are the only ones that really matter to me, you know, at the end of the day. But I was born and raised in, I'm bi-coastal, so I was born in New York. I was back and forth in New York, California. So I was, when I was 2 years old, parents separated and went to California. From the time I was 2 to the time I started the 3rd grade, I was in California from from the 3rd grade through the 6th grade, I was back in New York. Okay. And then from the 7th and 8th grade, I was back in California. And then all of high school back in New York. Yeah, so always back and forth. So my childhood, man, I'm very grateful for it, you know, and I'm grateful for it because, you know, trauma's a big part of my story, you know, I'll say that. And I think trauma does one of two things for people. It's either going to be the excuse, I got dealt a bad card, and, you know, people kind of give you kind of a pass a lot of times when you don't have the right people around you. And a lot of times when people come from where I come from, they don't ever find the right people, right? And they don't ever find the right influences. And so it could be just like the pass on why, you know, your life, you kind of just skate through life and kind of repeat that cycle and pass it to the next generation. Or it's the fuel, it's the rocket fuel, right? And, you know, for me, I'd say it's a bit about my parents, my mom, my dad. I'll preface with saying my relationship has evolved a ton. With my father, I love him deeply and dearly now. But you know, he had his struggles. My mom too. You know, addiction was a big part of my childhood. It affected my family, and you know, this is generational. This isn't just, and this is what I say, it's a cycle, right? And breaking the cycle, and we'll talk a little bit about that, how important that is to me. You know, my mom's parents were addicts. My dad's parents were addicts. And my parents became addicted to, you know, had problems with substance abuse. And so then, you know, that affected my childhood. So, you know, addiction is a disease that has riddled my family. You know, with that being said, you know, my father was an alcoholic, very mean one. You know, and my mom, you know, at one point was, you know, really, really heavily addicted to, you know, crack cocaine. And that was that era. And so I grew up seeing a lot of that. You know, I remember as a child, it was just normal to me because I thought just how life was, right? And I grew up in a small town in upstate New York, you know, and, you know, I was one of the only like 4 or 5 black guys in my town. And so, you know, everyone knew my father and my family. And so it was really tough to like kind of get like play dates because my dad had a reputation, you know. But you know, when I finally started like actually making friends and, you know, I was able to start like spending time with other families. That's when I realized, okay, like, yeah, my family environment's pretty different, right? You know, I remember, you know, they ate at the, you know, seeing families eat at the kitchen table, and just like not arguing and not, just, just seeing peace and happiness, right? I didn't know what it was at the time, but what I was feeling was anxiety and fear, right? Never really feeling at peace. So that was a big part of my childhood. Now, one of the things that was my outlets, one of the things that my parents did really well was get me into organized sports, right? So my first love ever was football, right? It was one of the things I was pretty gifted at. And, football is really the thing that I rode. So now with all that being said, I had my parents, but then I had other really critical, and I mean critical, influences in my life. And for me, the guardian angels in my life were my aunts and uncles. And then to this day, they're everything. There was points in my childhood where, my parents had actually lost custody of me and my sister. Really traumatic stuff had happened, and, both my parents were incarcerated, and I ended up being put in foster care for a period of time. But my aunts and uncles were fighting to get custody of us, me and my sister, and did pretty quickly. And I was able to go and really, in my 7th grade year, get a lot of stability and be with my aunt and my uncle. If you ever ask me, are there guardian angels? 100% there are. Her name's Carolyn Caldera DeFonte, Jean-Luc DeFonte, Lawrence Caldera, Stephanie Caldera. These aunts and uncles have really shaped me and helped mold and develop my character. And, at least from my childhood, were the shining example of what parenthood should look like, and nurturing of, your family and your children should look like. And so those examples are what I've hung on to. When there was a time where, my parents got custody back of me and my sister, and my sister made so my sister, if you want to know who my hero is, that's my sister, Adriana Finger. This woman is the strongest woman I know, along with my aunt. Women have been really big influences in my life, and my sister being the number one. What I've learned from my sister is since we were kids, she says whatever she says she was going to do, she's done. And she's done at the highest level. And she's done it with style and grace, and almost makes it look effortless, right? And my sister, even at a young age, she was she had started her freshman year in high school. And I had just finished my 8th grade year, and my parents got custody back. And she made a decision to stay. But for me, I was a mama's boy. I was a mama's boy to my core. And so I had to go back and protect mama, right? That was my thought process. I have to go be with mom, make sure she's good. And so I did. That decision was one of the hardest in my life, because it meant separating from my sister, my hero, right? And so when I went back to New York, I started high school, and I started really taking off with football. I really dedicated myself to that. I wasn't the best student. Okay. I didn't have a lot of structure in the house. When I was with my aunt and uncles, I got that, and I was, applying myself academically. But then, when I got back to, New York, hometown, small, the friend group that I had, were really more, they weren't a part of sports like I was, for the high school. They did their thing, and they liked the party. And so, I liked the party. That was influential on me. And so I started partying at a young age, right when I got back. And, but I really applied myself to football. I was gifted at it. Long story short, I was an athlete, and I was 3-time All-State athlete, in high school, New York State Player of the Year my senior year. So I was getting all these looks to schools, getting heavily recruited to a lot of D1 schools.
What position?
Running back.
Oh.
Yeah, running back,
a little meatball running through everyone.
No, man, I was tight and right, baby. I was ripped. I ended up getting all these looks, but then, these schools would look at my transcripts, and then they would say, oh, well, yeah, you can't go to our school. I didn't know what the NCAA clearinghouse is. It's a GPA to SAT score ratio. I crushed the SATs, was always a good test taker, but really struggled with, my grades, my GPA. So, my childhood, and I'm gonna fast forward here a little bit. I ended up playing, getting an opportunity to play college football, just not Division I. And this is where there's a really big change in my life. my mom, I mentioned her struggles, but, she was everything to me. I ended up losing my mom. When I was home on winter break, I came home and my mom struggled a lot with mental health, and she, struggled with, diabetes. She was really struggling the last bit of her years, like all throughout high school. My mom had ended up getting her leg amputated when I was a junior in high school. And that was one of the most difficult things I ever had to deal with. And, there was this moment where, after the operation, she was unconsolable. Unconsolable. And she said, Nick, she was screaming, I just don't want to live. I don't want to be here. She was just unconsolable. And there was this moment where I literally, like a father would do to their child, like I grabbed my mom and I said, Mom, I promise you everything's going to be okay. I promise. And there was a moment where she looked up at me and she said, are you sure? You promise, Nick? Do you promise everything's going to be okay? And I said, Mom, yeah, I promise. I promise you everything's going to be okay. Your best days are still ahead of you. We're going to get through this. And so one of the scariest things for me was leaving to college, was leaving my mom in the health condition she was. And but I did, because she, like any good mother, was saying, you have to go, right? You're not going to stay here and let me hold you back. And I did. And I went off and I went to college and was, developing relationships, having a lot of fun, playing football. But when I was home on my winter break, my mom ended up, I was home, for 2 nights, and then my mom ended up, committing suicide. I had found her. I did CPR on her, that was a life-altering event. When the closest person to you, I always thought before that happened, what's the worst thing that can happen that would just kind of put me out, can't move forward. And it was definitely losing my mom. My mom was an anchor for me. There's people in your life, that pour doubt into you, and there's people that really pour belief into you, right? And my mom, regardless of her struggle, she was that person for me. She saw a special light in me, and she always told me, Nick, like, you're going to be great in this world. You're going to impact a lot of people. And you choose what to hang on to. And I chose to hang on to her voice and her words. And instead of the people that doubted me and told me I wasn't going to do nothing, you know what I mean? And because I had those people too, and people closest to me. And so when I lost her, I lost a part of me, you know what I mean? And I was pretty directionless and lost. I didn't know how to handle that level of loss I didn't put myself through a bereavement process to process that loss. And I ended up going right back to school. I didn't even wait to go to take a semester off. I just went right back to school and literally I can count on one hand how many classes I went to. Spiraled pretty deeply. And a couple semesters later, I ended up flunking out of college, right? And so at the time had a lot of resentment towards my father, and so I decided to move to Florida, and I got my first job of dealing with people, right? I actually got a job working as a waiter in the service industry, just waiting tables. Actually at an Applebee's, shout out Applebee's, so where a big pivot in my life happened was. After 10 months of living in Florida, my grandmother, my mom's mom, passed away, probably from a broken heart from losing her, her oldest daughter. And my aunt, remember Guardian Angel I mentioned, she was trying to get a hold of me. I started pushing everybody away from me in my life. I was going down, and this is why I say, trauma is either going to be the excuse why you do nothing and really affect you and your growth and trajectory, or be the rocket fuel. For me, my process was I was letting it be the first, not the latter of the two. And I was 21, and I was very quickly going down a bad path, drinking a ton, partying a ton. And my aunt, after her calling me nonstop, I finally, I listened to her voicemail saying that my grandma passed away, and I finally called her back, and she's like, you're hopping on a plane, coming out here, you got to be here for the services. And that's what got me to California. And that was God's, I think I always say I was my grandma's last, gift to get me to California, to celebrate her life, you know what I mean? And then, I remember it like I'm looking at you now. I mean, clear as day, the conversation I had with my aunt. I had all my stuff back in Florida, and my aunt said to me, she finally got me, right? So she had me to be able to talk about what am I doing with my life. And she said, Nick, what is your plan? And I just sprang out a bunch of BS, dude. And she said, yeah, you're not doing that. Wait here. Left for 2 minutes, went and spoke to my uncle, and came back literally, like I said, 2 minutes later and said, Nick, you're not going back to Florida. You are staying here. You're going to live with us, and you're going to get your life on track. And I just looked at her, and I just broke down crying, and I just submissed, and I said, okay. The hairs, because God, does little, there's like just really pivotal things in your life, decisions that was one of the biggest, me staying in California.
To have someone in your life that can see that at that moment and know to do something pretty drastic.
Yeah.
And know that that's what you needed, even though every word you said might probably was sounding like the opposite, like you're good, everything's good, you have a plan in Florida. Mm-hmm. That is incredible to have that person at that moment. Gives me chills thinking about that because if you don't have that person when all that happens, because I can relate to exactly what you talked about. When I went through a ton of death in my family, my dad, my cousin, my uncles, all in the same little block of time, I went the same route. I went to like full victim, like I had no purpose, no mission, no reason to do anything. I didn't care about anything, out partying, out drinking, playing video games, just doing everything other than things that make me better or fuel my life for the better. And it took a long time for me to wake up and get out of that too. It was like I went like four to 6 months in that window. So when you talk about like how it dragged you down, like sorry to like hear how many things hit you at once, because I know how fast your life can lose its meaning internally. And to find someone that has someone in your life that was able to pull you out of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like I'd lost everything I cared about.
Yeah.
Football and my mom. I was supposed to play D1. I was a failure because I didn't have good grades in that regard. And so I had to play D2. I made a really knucklehead mistake, at school. And I ended up getting kicked off the football team right before I had come home for winter break. So boom, I lose football. Plan was to regroup and probably go to a different school. Right, that would give me an opportunity to play for them. And like, I kid you not, all I cared about was football. All I cared about was my mom and my family. And, and then boom, I go home and I lose my mom. And I literally couldn't process. I had zero purpose, zero direction, and I was resentful towards God. I was like, dude, you don't do this to somebody. I lost my spiritual connection. I mean, I was completely lost, man.
And it's all at once too.
At once.
That's the thing about it. Not just one piece of it. Is like everything that fell in your life just fell apart right then.
And then this woman, my aunt, my uncle, I mean, just absolutely pulled me from the depths of like a really bad direction, man. Really bad direction. And I can never, ever, ever repay her for how she's loved on me and cared and nurtured, and my aunts, and these are all my aunts and uncles, right? I can never repay. The best way that I try to repay her is just showing up every day and taking advantage of this beautiful gift of life, where I get to, really honor her. And then, my mom, I went through this process and I still wasn't there, right? I had to let go of a lot of things that were anchoring me. I mentioned I had, a lot of substance abuse in my family. The way I coped was through alcohol, right? I drank a ton. I got to California and I got a service. I worked at Buffalo Wild Wings. I ended up, my story's crazy, right? So I ended up, my aunt was like, you're going to go to a condition to stay at my house. You have to go to school. You have to get a job. You have to, take care of the house, right? So I lived through those conditions and I did all those things. And she's like, I want you to get a career, right? She didn't know about direct sales, right? Nobody knew. And she had a friend that was in commercial insurance. And one of the requirements to get one of these jobs is an internship was to have a 4-year degree. I didn't have it yet. I had just got working on my associates. And so but he got me an interview, right? And, you can sell yourself to a job, but then you actually have to go do the work. And, the thing about, that's where my sales skills came out. I sold myself on this job and my ability to do this, but I was unqualified. And one thing about time, it's either going to promote you, expose you. That is undefeated, right? And I was exposed, dude. I went to this job, with high spirits. I had to move from LA to San Francisco. I got my own apartment in the most expensive city in the United States, working at a high rise in the financial district in LA. This is when I'm 21 years old, 22 years old. And I ended up, trying my best at this job, but I was awful at it. I mean, it was all about organization. It was a 9 to 5 in a cubicle, organization, making sure certificates of insurance for like billion-dollar clients are 100% accurate because they can't be wrong because it has millions and billions of dollars of implications if they are. And I just kept on making errors, man. And again, because of the attention to detail. And so I was exposed. After about 10 months, I got fired from that job, right? And what I took away from that, I noticed in working in this beautiful office in the financial district, everybody that had the corner offices surrounding, oversaw the Bay Bridge, oversaw the skyline in San Francisco, their job titles were producers. And I remember asking a question. I said, "Hey, what do they do?" And they're like, "Those are the sales guys. Those are the ones that go out and generate new business." And I thought, light bulb moment, I'm like, I got to get there. That's what I need to be doing. I need to be talking to people. I need to be, in the marketplace, mixing, mingling, developing my people skills, because that's what I love to do. I'm good right here, right? But when I'm here like this, that's danger zone for a guy like Nick Finger, man. You know what I mean? And so, but me right here, this is life for me. This is life-giving. This is one of my working geniuses. You know what I mean? So, but that was the definition of all my working frustrations, enablement and tenacity, doing those things, right? Terrible. And so I got fired from that job, and I'm like, I need to get a pathway to sales. I just never got there because I ended up getting fired. I remember the phone call like it was yesterday, having to call my aunt and be like, "Hey, Titi, I got fired from this job. I don't know what to do. I'm not gonna be able to keep my apartment." And instead of like berating me, being upset, she said, "It's okay, mijo. We're gonna figure it out. Just come home." And so I remember I make this drive from San Francisco to back to LA.
I made that drive before.
Yeah. And, there's moments in life where you make decisions, right? And I'd played the tape of my life, dude. And, I remember, there's these film tapes of me with YouTube videos of people saying that kid's going to win the Heisman one day. Every opportunity in life that I was given, I had squandered up to that point. I mean, I had failed time and time again. I was sick and tired, before I was coming home. I remember this resolve that I had. And I looked in the mirror, and I was just so sick and tired of looking at this person who I felt as if can be more, should be more, will be more, but just isn't doing it, just hasn't done it yet. And I remember on that drive home, it was a spiritual experience. I was listening to music. I remember exactly what was playing, and it was Jack Johnson. It was a Sunday, and I was like, this is it. I remember I made a comment. I was like, congratulations to whoever gets the version of Nick Finger that's going to show up in whatever I do. And I knew it was going to be sales. And when I got back to, California, the first job I had ever that's when I started when I got back to LA, that's when I had started my solar career. But again, my things that I had to let go were, anchors that were holding me down. And a big part of that was alcohol. And so that was a big part of something that I had to let go in order to really become my true self. And I'm grateful for that, because that allowed me to, really come to the realization of this. I stopped being a victim. I made the decision to stop being a victim. The worst thing that you can be in life, I feel like, is just like a victim and stay in a victim mentality. And up to that point, I had been. And I decided to take the reins, and I came to this realization, and this is after a lot of I got into therapy, I got into working on those other things that were anchors in my life, like alcohol. And I did a lot of self-work, and I started to be able to come to this realization that, I have the greatest opportunity in life now to have, because there was this promise that I made to my mom that life was going to get better. Life got worse, and she ended up taking her own life. There was a moment before my mom had died where she had said she took pills, and I was like, did you not? And And she said she didn't. This was the night before she had passed away. And this is like really, really, really like in the nitty gritty, the deep down, the dark, the really painful stuff that's really hard to talk about. But she had like said that she was going to commit suicide multiple times. She'd attempted it multiple times. And there was times when she said she was committing suicide and she took pills and she didn't. So it was always this back and forth between the hospitals, and it was really hard on us as a family. And I was like, I got angry with my mom the night before. I said, Mom, why are you doing this? Like, did you do this or not? And she said, she saw I was upset and she said, no, I didn't. And I had 911 dialed on my phone. You know, I didn't press send. And because she said I didn't, I promise. But she did. And I woke up and my mom was dead. And so I lived with this incredible amount of guilt in my heart and my spirit that just couldn't be lifted, because I didn't fulfill that promise that I made to my mom that day in the hospital when she lost her leg. And I felt as if I could have prevented her from dying in the first place. And so I lived with this unbelievable guilt, and I was a victim, and I felt sorry for myself. I was angry, and I was confused, and I just felt. And so through this self-work, I was able to come to the realization that I'm not a victim. I was given a gift. I was given an opportunity to now fulfill that promise that I made to my mom by allowing my mom's legacy to live on through me, on how I walk through life and the character that I hold every single day, because my mom gets to live on through me and how I treat people, because all the best in me, she shows up every single day. You know, right here, this is a reflection of Laura Renee Finger, you know, and the way that my sister walks through life, my brother, me, she lives on through us every single day, and I get to carry on that legacy. And that's a responsibility and a privilege that I carry on these shoulders as a gift. And I try to honor her every single day. And once I found that as a purpose in my life, people walk around directionless, purposeless every single day, and they're living, or they're walking around, but they're not living. They're not living through the fruit of the Spirit, and they're not walking in purpose. And so I was able to find a purpose on that drive, coming through these realizations, through the self-work that I did, that I have a gift and I have a responsibility and I have a privilege, and there's no way I'm going to let this responsibility fail, because it's the biggest one I've ever been given. By the grace of God, that's you know, when I got to California, I hopped on when I got to LA, solar. That's when it came into my life.
Indeed.
Craigslist.
That's
how I found solar. I wasn't recruited by a buddy, none of that. I found it through Craigslist, and my mom thought I was insane, dude. Yeah. But that's my childhood, and that's a little bit of my story. It goes much deeper than that, but that's the tip of the iceberg, and it gets you to understand a little bit more about, like, you know, the level of obsession you see me operate with, right? It's because I have a purpose that is clearer than this view that I see here in Costa Rica right now. I have a purpose that is so large and so big that it's not about me. It's so much bigger than me.
Man, and I can feel it, dude. You speak through your heart. You speak through you. You speak in a way that most people don't speak. You speak in a way that can consistently give me that chill feeling that you are coming from a place of like love, genuine. Actually, it's amazing how much you're able to speak through your heart. Like sitting with you, talking to you, hearing you speak in front of everybody here. You're literally one of a kind. There's very few people I've ever met, including myself, that can bring it out of your heart and through your mouth, and everyone can feel the words you say. So I don't really know what got you to that place to be able to speak through your heart so well. But hearing your story for the first time is like this in depth. I haven't heard your story like this. I've heard snippets of it, but not the walkthrough. Man, it lets me know, like, one thing is, like, we're so much more similar than we are different. And the way you've handled these situations and the pain you've gone through, the challenges you've overcome, it really helps me understand, like, why you show up in the world the way you do today. And I can relate to so much of that pain and that feeling of loss and that feeling of losing the purpose. And then that feeling of like, that's it, I'm no longer going to be this person. I'm going to honor everybody. I'm going to show everyone the hard work they put into me, the time they gave me when I was growing up, the things they did for me, like I want to make sure that they know, whether they're on this planet or in heaven, that time was worth it. Like I proved to them and everyone around me that I gave back much more than I ever took.
Yeah.
And I can tell that you came from that same spirit, and it's been a catalyst to the change. Like you stopped drinking, you realized that was a major vice that was always being an anchor, is dragging you down, and probably the people around you down with you. That was a big change I had to make 4.5 years ago or so. And so hearing your story, I'm just like, there's so many similarities to how we cross paths, which I think explains maybe why, like when me and you are together, it just feels like, dude, I just want to run with you. I just want to do life with you. I want to do business. I want to do everything with you. And it's like, it all kind of connects those dots for me. I'm just like, I don't know why, but when I'm with Nick, I'm like, I just feel like me and you can really do anything we want to do together. And we both have a similar frame of reference. And it makes sense now, that frame of reference, that passion, that energy, that we will do anything to make sure that we become what we're supposed to become for the people we love and for the people that gave to us. And dude, I'm just stoked to know all of that about you now. And I think everyone listening to this podcast too, I'm sure so many people have similar stories. So hearing how you've gone through it, and also hearing like, hey, there's periods of times where you didn't make the right decisions in that turbulence. And in fact, not just didn't make the right decision, but there months probably went by where you lived in the pocket of despair and the pocket of adversity.
Years.
And years. And that you can make that switch and make that pivot. And then it's like one step at a time until ultimately you just surrendered. You submitted yourself to becoming the person you're meant to become.
I think everybody has the opportunity to make that decision. Some just, it takes longer than others. And like one of my purposes in helping serving, and I'm in the people business, right? And in the leadership business. And, you know, one of my purposes is to help people find and then achieve their purpose, right? And in order for them to do that, a decision has to be made. And, you know, I just see it so often, so many people just negotiate the price tag of what it takes to actually fulfill a purpose. And there is no negotiating that, man. There just isn't.
Yeah.
You know, but eventually, you know, if you're around the right people, you come to that decision. Or if you've experienced enough pain, right? Pain is the biggest driver of change, right? If you've experienced enough pain, eventually you come to the decision like, hey, I'm going to change, right? But I just, you know, my goal and one of my purposes is to shorten that gap.
Yeah.
For everybody that I try to come in contact with, especially the reps that I serve, the people that I lead, for them to find that and then to shorten the gap when that it takes for them to go all in on themselves and actually fulfilling their purpose.
And I think I'm actually curious on this side, but when I think back to like some of the major changes I made in my life, or the times I got through the stuff that was difficult the fastest and in the healthiest way, it was when I started to surround myself with the right team, with the right, you know, some would just call it a brotherhood, right?
Yeah.
And for me, that's always been, luckily in the solar industry, that's kind of what I found everywhere I went, was a group of people that kept me going more often than not in the right direction. And when things weren't going so well in my life, I was able to lean on the way they operated, the way they moved, their leadership, and to course correct a little bit faster. And I actually think about it too. When I went through that time where I had a ton of death in my family, I moved to LA from the Bay. And I was like, you know what? The reason how I'll get myself out of this, right? What worked the first time? The first time I got into the solar industry, I moved from Florida to California, didn't know anybody. I was like, I'm going to reinvent who I am. And I just locked in and I was around people. And I was like, it must be the fact that I moved somewhere else and I just was able to like reset who I was. And that's what was the catalyst to my success and energy. So I was like, you know what? I'm going through a lot of stuff right now. I went through like 2 weeks where I just lived in New York with Jocko, one of my good friends, and a few other good friends out there. And I just drank every day and partied every day, spent all my money.
Yep.
And I was like, I actually contemplated getting a job in New York, taking like an 80K salary or 70K salary somewhere. And meanwhile, I was making, you know, 150, 160 doing solar. In the beginning of solar, you know how the money was. It's a little different back then.
Yeah,
$1,500 a job.
$160 a kilowatt.
$72 a panel was the pay. Yeah. And I got so close to doing that because I couldn't imagine going back to the hard stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And so, but finally I moved back there, and then I moved to LA, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to get an Airbnb in LA. I'm going to help build out a different part of the company that was focused on kind of building dealers, building other companies up, right? Giving them the framework and the structure that I had success in building my teams. And so I went there because I was like, hey, I moved before. That got me into a good place. I'm going to do it again. It didn't go well at all. Yeah. I made that move, and I was all alone in an Airbnb with no air conditioning. Turns out bungalow basically means like no AC except for this little tube in my room. So it was in summer in LA.
Picturing it now.
It was the worst. And I ended up just buying an Xbox. I ended up just never doing anything. I just had too much anxiety, too much depression. every day I'd wake up and just be like, I'm not going to go do the thing I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
Here's my excuse. Okay, next day. I'm going to go play video games. I'm going to get Uber Eats. Next day. Same thing. I'll be there.
Next
day. And every day just kept repeating. And then I finally moved back to the Bay after months of dealing with like absolutely I got fired from my job. I got demoted from director of sales down to sales rep. And then I ended up getting fired from my first company. So I went from like being nothing to this is my baby. I'm the director of sales to being a sales rep to being fired. And that was a huge hit because back then I didn't know anything about anyone in the solar industry. Solar wasn't like a thing you saw on social media. I didn't know any companies. My blinders were on. There wasn't people talking about it. And so it was huge.
True, huh?
It was super.
Early solar is not much social. Yeah.
It was super, super scary.
Yeah.
And then I realized the thing that actually got me out of this despair for the first time, and I'm curious to see if this was part of yours as well, was once I got fired, luckily my friend let me live in his living room. I was dead broke because I spent all my money. I was negative.
Yeah.
He let me live in his living room. Imagine being, there's 2-bedroom, Eric Frank and Dean Schraube, both in their rooms. And then I'm in the living room on a bed I brought in. That's the setup. And I just wouldn't go to the meetings. I was bad for culture, so I should have been fired. I got my sales in, but I should have been fired. And then when I finally got fired, I ended up in a new company once I found this new company, and I was around people again.
Yeah.
That gave me life and gave me energy. And that's what reawoke me.
Yeah.
And it was like and then I realized, the reason that was flawed going to there was because I wasn't around the brotherhood. I was by myself trying to like get out of it by myself. And it's really hard to get out of these things by yourself, even if you think that's the way to do it. And it wasn't until I started to like slowly build that circle back up, where I had this like sphere of like positive influence and like good energy and people pursuing something, that all of a sudden it was like, I literally snapped. And the easiest way I could like show how much I snapped into it, I more than doubled my income in 3 months that I ever made before in a year. And it was like, oh my gosh, I just need to be around people and the right people. That's why I could never imagine doing something where part of the business is not surrounding myself with people like you. I'm addicted to bringing in amazing people with the right behaviors that align with everything we're doing. I'm addicted to that because that's what gives me life and energy. That's what makes that feeling of this, pursuing it all out till I die mentality easy. And I was curious to see if in that journey, when you made this pivot, when you got into solar, like if you started to get around those people that brought you there.
Yeah, that's the first time I found my tribe. So like us as human beings, we are tribal people. Your tribe is either going to be an anchor, right? Like Nipsey Hussle says, if you're not inspired as hell by the people the room that you're in, you're not in a room, you're in a cage, right? And so, for the first time, I got in a room where I was no longer in a cage. I was in a room that was life-giving. I found my tribe, and I found the men that are, to this day, my closest friends, Jake Gerber, Remy Levine, Bryce Faulkner, business partners that, I started my own solar company with, but, they were the people that inspired me and that I probably learned more from in business and mentored me in different areas in my life than anybody else up to this point. And so I found my first tribe of people that I could freaking run with. You know what I mean? Where there was alignment in terms of character, in terms of vision for wanting more, being more, creating more, right? And a willingness and a relentless passion for going and doing whatever it takes to go out there and attack it and find it, right? And just doing the work, right? So when you get around people like that, it's hard to lose. Like it's just like if you're around people that are like that, and you're not like that, you don't fit in. You fire yourself from that tribe, right? Because Saban's one of my greatest leader coaches. I love. He talks about how, mediocre people can't stand high achievers and high achievers can't stand mediocre people. They just hate being around each other, right? And so, I always say, like one of our slogans, I'm a menace to mediocrity. Yeah. Our whole team, we're menaces to mediocrity. Mediocrity is not accepted in our sphere, right? You're a faucet or a drain. It's one or two things. And I found people that were life-giving for the first time, like that are on the same journey of personal growth and development that I was. And I was able to run with it, man. And to this day, you know what I mean? And so, and that's what this industry gives you is that gift. Yeah. It's the gift of proximity. It's the gift of obsession. If you find the right vehicle, the right people, the right leaders, not every opportunity, not every room's created equal. Yeah. But if you happen to be blessed with the opportunity enough to be put in the right room, right? The right doors open up to you. And usually that happens by doing right by people, having good character, and, just, going through pain. I made a post yesterday, just willing to go through pain and keep on going and give until it hurts and care about impact more than you care about, anything else, more than not self-serving. The right opportunities are presented, the right doors are open at the right time when you're ready to actually see the opportunity for what it is and then take advantage of it. And at that time, I was in the right mind state, and I had, really surrendered. It was a spiritual, the reason why I said that drive back home was a spiritual experience. For the first time, I talked to God in a long time. I said, God, I'm sorry, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I don't want to feel the way I feel. I'm tired of this pain. What do I have to do? Please give me the direction that I need in order to, and give me the resolve and the willingness to do whatever it takes to not feel the way I feel. All I wanted to do is just not feel the way I feel, not look at myself the way I was looking at myself, right? And I said, God, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And then he put me in the right room.
Yeah, I think that's why, when you think about you entering that atmosphere, you entering that tribe, that got you the life-giving energy you needed to become the Nick Finger you wanted to become, because you were hungry for it. You were searching for it.
Desperate for it.
You're desperate for it. There's so many men and women that are in that exact position that make a move to any company in any industry, and a lot of it is in pursuit of that room, whether they know it or not. They want that room. They want that catalyst for change. So when I see someone in a leadership position, and I've been in this spot myself, so it's not like I haven't been there, and I see that person is living a life that is not conducive to those around them growing, it really upsets me internally. Because you're no longer just leading yourself. If you're just leading yourself, I had someone come up to me, they're like, hey, Alex, I really want to stop this habit and this bad habit, that bad habit. I'm like, why? Like, oh, well, I want to be better. I'm like, well, then that's great if you want to. Like, I don't really think it matters. It wasn't in our company. It was in a totally separate industry. I'm like, I don't really think it matters if you make those changes or not. He's like, what do you mean? You don't do any of those things. I'm like, well, right now you're just you. You're just leading you.
Yeah.
You don't have a big sphere of influence. So you shouldn't even feel bad about the way you're operating or feel like you must change, because right now you're just responsible for you. So if you want to lead yourself astray, that's cool, dude. That's on you. If you want to make your life harder, that's okay. That's on you. I was like, but hear me out. I was like, this will change. The way I'm looking at you right now, saying this is cool, do whatever you want. The second you have people you're responsible for, if you continue to do those things and you think that's okay, me and you have a real problem.
Yep.
I no longer will respect you. I will be upset with you, and I will do anything to coach you into a better position, because I went through that myself, where if I didn't change X, Y, Z, I knew for a fact there's no way I could show up as the man I was meant to be for the people around me on a daily, consistent basis. Maybe 3-4 days out of the week I could be that guy. Maybe 2-3 days out of the week I could be that guy. Maybe I'll get a good week or a good month. But then all of a sudden I was no longer that person. And what do your people need more than anything? They need to know the way you're going to show up in a predictable way every single day. Is this person, I know how they talk, I know how they walk, I know they take action, I know they execute. It is your responsibility to do that, and then to do it at the highest level, because there's a saying, and we all have heard it before, which is your people will do 10,000 times the bad and half the good you do.
Yep.
Whatever you do 10 out of 10 times, your people will follow. Whatever you do 9 out of 10 times, they will never do.
Yep.
I think it's just an important thing for every person that's either in leadership or about to be in leadership to understand, like, if you don't make those changes and you continue to self-serve instead of serve others, and you believe that, the way you want to live is your priority, and guess what? You might be able to get away with it. You might be able to still be a dog and produce and win. And I was still able to win. I was still able to make about $1 million a year doing all those things.
Yeah.
That I was still able to, in most people's world, be successful, but I wasn't. Someone said it yesterday. The numbers were for me, right? My behaviors are for everyone else.
Yeah, so behaviors precede results. What people don't understand is your behaviors precede results 100% of the time, and your numbers only affect you. Your behaviors affect everybody, right? Your behaviors is going to affect everybody around you. So your numbers, if they're great, awesome. But if your behaviors are terrible, you're a liability. You're actually not an asset, because you're selfish. You're just caring about your numbers while you have bad habits, bad behaviors, bad character, doing things that you probably shouldn't be doing, but you could do it anyway because you have talent. You can rely on your own talent. But those, because those are one of the most dangerous people in the room. Somebody that has I mean, to your team and your organization and that you're building, somebody that can do a lot of volume but has terrible behaviors, that's one of the most dangerous people on your team, right? Because when you do a lot of numbers, you have a ton of influence, because leadership is influence, nothing less, nothing more. And you're either a good leader or a bad leader, because you're either influencing someone positively or negatively. It's really no black and gray. And so if your negative habits and your behaviors while you're a high producer, that impacts. So like, it's all about leading yourself and having the right habits, and that's why, I love, the models and the frameworks that we go through here. Is like, we hire based on what? We hire based on fit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't hire based on potential. Potential is a part of it, right? Your performance is a part of it, but by far the biggest part of it is your fit.
By far. And the more I've grown in business, the more that's what I look at.
Yeah.
The more that's what I want to work with. And I will sacrifice so much performance. I will sacrifice production all day long, cut people, decide not to bring people on if I feel like there's a misalignment in fit. I think it's important to like explain over to everyone else, culture is really built upon two main questions, right? The culture of the company. Why does the company exist? Do you align with that?
Yeah.
We exist by elevating the industry through trust to create uncommon success for the people we serve. Yeah. So if someone inherently doesn't find that as a reason they're in this industry, because it can't be for profit or money. Anytime you're in a business, that's just table stakes. Mm-hmm. If you're not aligned with creating more trust within your team, within the company, within the industry, with the consumers, to create that uncommon success and to create that certainty this industry so desperately needs, you're inherently misaligned with the culture. The question number two, because culture can be confusing when you say it, or even behaviors. It's like, what does that mean? I love defining things for myself and for others. I'm realizing definitions are so important, because otherwise we all assume what we think. If it's ambiguous or there's assumptions, it is now, there's no clarity. Yeah. And clarity is the number one strategy in business. Yeah. So the behaviors on the second question is like, how do we behave? What makes a misfit in this company is important to figure out first. Like, what are the characteristics of a misfit? Mm-hmm. Okay, they're egotistical. They are not humble. They seem to know everything. They never reach out for help. They would rather self-sabotage. They would rather hold information to themselves until it's most valuable to themselves.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that create a misfit, and I'm sure we all felt it. And then more importantly is like, how do you define the rock star behaviors in a company so you can provide the clarity for those people? And so the only way you can reinforce that is by hiring, firing, onboarding, training through that lens. And so, our behaviors, and some people might know this already, is you before me, which means you have a team first mentality. You put the company first no matter what. You come second. You understand the team, the company. That takes care of everybody, including you. In the long term, that's how because mercenaries don't work forever in this industry.
Never.
Mercenaries kill companies, and mercenaries end up usually killing themselves.
Yep.
The second part to that is you have to kill politics and confusion, and leaders eat last.
100%.
So if you're always trying to get your piece of the cake first, it really quickly shows that you don't put others first, because some people are so desperate of getting their cut of the pie so fast that they're asking it before the person's ever done anything. They're like, dude, it's kind of weird that like the first thing you're thinking about is how do you get yours versus how do you help them get theirs?
Right.
And then of course, kill politics and confusion, which is like back channeling meetings after meetings, anything that's ambiguous or vague or assumptions could be made. So it's you before me, whatever it takes, and dialed in. Whatever it takes in our behaviors is you say you're going to do something. Your goal is your goal. It's not my goal. It's your goal. It's exclusive to you.
Yeah.
But
I love that you never, I love one of the things that you never force goals on your leaders.
Yeah.
You're like, you tell me the goal. If it's just, as long as you hit what you do what you say, I'm good with the goal, right? You tell me, right? I love that. That's the culture that we've created here.
I was on a call with a team that's coming over, and he was like, it's like, if I don't do 20 in the next, month or two, I'm like, am I going to lose the division? Am I not going to be a team? And I'm like, no. I was like, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, you're going to be removed from your position. If you tell me you're going to do 10 deals and you do 10 deals, we're good. If you tell me you're going to do 50 deals and you do 30 deals, we aren't good. Because there's a huge gap between what you say to me and with the reality of what you commit to and execute on no matter what. And that's the whatever it takes side of our behaviors that's critical in a high caliber, high standard organization. Yeah. And then finally, there's the dialed in piece, which I think every company, this lens right here is something I've looked at more closely than ever before, which is this person a self-sufficient expert? Yep. Do they take the time to learn, study, and grow within the system? They know the tech, they know the operations, they know how it all works, so they're not a baby asking questions every single day, like, wow, where's the food at? Yeah. Like, you just know how to get the food yourself. You could grab it and eat it 100%. All on your own. And then if so, are they a systematic multiplier? So does that person now have systems they've adopted in their process and their flow to where other people that come around them are all of a sudden able to do the same thing easier than when they were doing it. Yeah. So they're able to help bridge that time gap you talked about earlier between brand new, not knowing what to do, and becoming the professional, from unprofessional to professional. Yeah. And so those behaviors, like for anyone thinking about culture or thinking about the behaviors to look at the fit before the performance. That's our lens. It's important, I think, every company to like answer that and think through it. And you could quickly diagnose whether someone falls in that bucket. And sometimes they have different degrees of each.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's your job then to create the clarity around, hey, this is what I see. This is where I see the gap. I want you to know this so that you can work on it. Otherwise, it's on you as the leader because you haven't created the clarity around it.
100%. 100%. I think that, and that last piece, I love that that's our, like, really, because we've built, I mean, really special being a part of this offsite where, like, when we were trying to, like, figure out what are all the things that were what's all the politicking, what's all the confusion, felt like we were kind of grasping at straws to, like, find stuff.
Yeah.
I've never been a part of a group or a team or an organization with such high-level players all in one room, all at one place, where there's such complete alignment, where there's such just willing to submiss your, like, just egoless room. I mean, almost zero ego in the room, humility and excitement to all just continue to do their part in what we're trying to build together. Let's professionalize, make us even more sophisticated as a group so that we just become even more undeniable.
And that's the progression. You look at the scope of a company's growth. It goes from idea, which is like a founder has the idea and it has some market testability, like it's proven, right, in the market. It has proof of concept. And then you go from idea to growth, right? Growth is when you start to achieve results, and it's usually like the founder's still a big part of it. And then the team is becoming a bigger part of what's happening now, right? You're in that growth phase. And we as a company are between growth and scale. And scale, it all becomes around creating the systems, the processes to make it to where everyone, brand new or veteran, not just has the same experience, but has the highest rate of success the fastest. So we're in this like critical stage as a company.
Yeah, it's where most companies fail.
And if you don't get
they
there,
can't figure it out.
If you don't get there, like you live in the growth phase or you die out eventually because you end up kind of like your foundation's fickle.
Yeah.
And so we've all been a part of those our teams ourselves probably at points where like our foundation was a lot weaker than we thought it was.
Yeah.
We really didn't have the systems. We still got the growth. And then something happened and it's actually much more difficult to rebuild. It's much more difficult to stack those bricks on top of one another because all of a sudden it's like quicksand.
Yeah.
You're just sinking down.
Yeah, I love our what we are doing as an organization is we are making decisions. We're making better decisions faster, and we are we're simply out deciding the competition.
Yeah,
that's what we're doing. We're out deciding. That's what, man. Casey Thompson Table Group, like just what we are doing.
Well, Alan Reeves here soon.
Huh?
Well, Alan Reeves here soon for everyone in the future.
Nobody is doing what we're doing in solar. Nobody. Nobody's willing to invest into their team, into their organization, into their executive, thought pattern more than what we are. No one's willing to submit, saying, "Hey, let's follow a framework. You know better. We're gonna follow it, and we're gonna let God take the wheel, right? And we're gonna go run. We're gonna do the work, and the results speak for itself, man. I don't know who's really doing what we're doing right now.
No, and that's the real piece. There is like I slightly disagree. I think a lot of companies try to invest in their team. They try to bring their people to events and to places to get better. I think we just happen to be so blessed and so lucky to have Brian, who brought in Casey Thompson, who brought in this whole new way of thinking. And in fact, this way of thinking, it's really just training yourself how to think, not necessarily how to perform.
Yeah.
It's really how to think and how to make decisions. We are just, I feel so grateful. I'm like, man, I've been in this industry for a long time, and I've learned more in the last 6 months with Casey Thompson. I see him over there. I've learned more about becoming a professional, running a business, and being a healthy company than ever before. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the piece where it's like you can bring your people to all these great locations, all these trips, and you could train them on the job, but that's not transformational. Yeah. What we do now is transformational. It's hard to put it into words until you're here. I think everyone here in it, they're like, oh my gosh, my brain is lighting up. I realize all the flaws of my ways of thinking, communicating, deciding before, and now I see a better way to do it, and it fires you up because you're like, how much can I achieve under a new framework, a simplified framework that makes it easy?
Yeah.
But one thing I really want to dive into, because I know we're about to have to go on these ATVs.
Yeah.
Your division, and this is something I know everyone wants to hear and understand. Your division, you came here in October, right?
Yep.
Which was how many months ago?
10 months ago.
10 months ago. October with basically nobody. You had a small group of people.
Handful of guys, yeah.
You accumulated a group of people that knew who you were, right?
Yep.
You got the influence, got to go on some blitzes, just out selling, out ripping. And, we faced this before we became our own installer.
Yeah.
So things went good, and then things went not so good. And you got to a point, I remember us on phone calls, right? Because it was kind of like things were in a sense falling apart, right? You weren't able to get the results you expected, and maybe your people expected too. I'm not gonna go into the details, but there's things that popped up, uncontrollables, that really made, this already any sales job, right, challenging to extremely difficult. And you managed to go this year from, virtually nothing at one point to this past week, you just hit 51. You're gonna probably hit 55 plus this week.
Yep.
You're probably pacing to do 150 to maybe even 200 next month.
Yep.
From nothing. Yep. And I think everyone in this, listening to this wants to build something special, wants to build something they're proud of. So that like rapid expansion and that growth, and it's sustainable, and the culture. And now I've seen your people in person, so I understand how strong and how real that culture really is. I feel it when I'm with them. Like what did you do to go from that side of things where you could have gave up and could have quit and could have shifted to something else, right? Very easy, to now being the top performing division in the company, and quite frankly, pacing to become a partner in the company in a record-breaking speed. No one, like what you're about to do, no one has really done.
Yeah.
And I see it happening soon, unexpectedly, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, these guys you're really doing it. It's like, cool, but like, walk us through that process and in a way where other people can apply it and make their teams great.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, just from the technical side, I mean, the system I was running before, which was a blitz model, wasn't going to be sustainable for me to reach the heights and the success that I know was possible for the team in like the division that I wanted. So the system, which I'll dive into here in a minute, connecting me with Logan and Danny, that was a big part of it. Right, I'm not going to take all the credit by any means. I've never had a leader here that has helped me build the way that a leader that I've worked with that has helped me build the way that you've helped me build. Number three is really, I'm going to give credit where credit's due, is Logan and Danny too, right? Like those are future divisional leaders here in our business, and then Bree and Gunner, that's another piece, right? So all of that, all at one, and then Brooklyn and Sam, right? So it's just God's, but the answer really is, and it's the faith in me, it's God, right? It's just like, there's no way something like all that doesn't come together all at once in terms of the sacrifices that I was willing to make, the people that came into the mix all at the right time, the products that came into the mix, right? Last minute, right? This past couple weeks, right? And just the people that were at a certain place in their life in terms of their development and their willingness to commit and sacrifice to a thing, which is our creed and our behaviors, right? All willing to do whatever it takes. And that's also coupled with the system. But at the end of the day, it was God.
And by the way, those people weren't willing to do that until they knew that you were willing to do it more than them.
Yeah.
So I just want to point out, like, you think maybe all those people are willing to do it and that's just the place they're in their life. I would probably disagree. I would say you deciding to make more sacrifice, knowing your kid, your wife, everyone's back home, you're out away for 3 weeks, you're getting long-term housing, you're not doing the blitz model, you're doing a sustainable structure, right? You realize that pivot, that model can only get you so far, can only get anyone so far. Like, so I would actually argue that you leading the way you did and deciding to make that commitment and that sacrifice in front of everyone and show up as that person, you're the reason I believe most of those people decided they're willing to sacrifice anything for this.
Yeah.
So I don't think you just came into what we call like a layup.
Yeah.
So to speak, you created the laydown. People are like, oh, that was a laydown, that deal. No. You created the laydown.
So when I went through all that pain and I was like, you know what, like I was looking at, so the standard at the time was Legion, right? What had they done? They'd gotten a market, went all in on it, got housing, had people full-time in market. And, we were transitioning as a business to a point where that's what's needed for our business as an installer. You need consistent, sustainable sales. And so instead of this mercenary go hit, ton of volume in one time. So we knew, and through our discussions, like we were going to plant our flag. It's just a matter of where and when. And so the timing of it is just, we found like all the market research that I had done, we landed on the Midwest, specifically Iowa. I was going out there no matter what. And then the timing of it where, great leader, Logan, who also knew Danny, and then we decided to go all in. I mean, the fact is this, right? On the leadership side, I think a lot of times we know what we have to do and we want to do, but we're not willing to do it because of what we have to sacrifice.
Or what we used to be able to do.
Yeah, it's what we have to sacrifice, which is like things like away from family, which, you know what, I'm not going to knock anyone that's not willing to do that.
Yeah, but don't say you want it.
But don't say you want it.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Plain
totally
and
cool.
simple.
But just don't say you want to be
Don't
that guy.
say I'm going to be a big division.
Yeah.
Don't say I'm going to build this. This is because, frankly,
BTNA is not fun.
yeah,
Big talk, no action.
The reality is it's just not going to happen unless you, as the leader, the person that everybody looks to, where the buck stops with you, because you take unless you are willing to do it, but do it 10 times what they're willing to do.
Yep.
The people on your team. Everyone on my team knows that what I've sacrificed. They see on the day-to-day basis how, the strain that puts on me being away from the family, right? But also the fact that I go out there as a leader and I operate, I love what I do. I love it, and they know I love it. They know how passionate I am about it. They see that there's no fakeness about my desire for them to succeed just as much, if not way more than I succeed. Like for me, like this is the real thing, right? Like I'm going to call a spade a spade. I've been in this industry 11 years. I've built some really special teams. I've had a team that, did 325 in a month that I, built. But, my legacy this is my life's work. I've done this 11 years. And so, and leadership is not how far you take yourself. It's how far you take others. When I look at how far I've taken people, I'm not satisfied, man. I've helped a lot of people make a lot of money, but the problem with this industry is people make a lot of money and they leave it with not a lot to show for it because they don't have any financial discipline, financial literacy. They don't invest their money into the right things. And that was the biggest mistake I've made up until this point as a leader. And so I saw Spartan as an opportunity to with my brand, my willingness to go out there and do what I want to do, and my desire to change my legacy and my life's work of impact on others. I saw Spartan is an opportunity to give me the vehicle to help me impact others more.
Yes.
I follow the law of navigation. It's your job to lead your people into the vehicle that's best for them, right? Even if that's to your own sacrifice. And the sacrifice I made was
big sacrifice.
Stop wearing the jersey that I birthed in my mind at Voltaic with people that I love, and Voltaic's doing their thing. But that was a really big sacrifice that I was willing to make. It wasn't just my family. It was literally walking away from my business that I love to my core, right? And I did it because if my legacy was going to be leading people and the success that they had, I knew Spartan gave them a better opportunity with the resources that it had, and just like the systems, the tech, the people, the market, expansion goals, right? I know that it gave me a better opportunity to impact people that I serve better than my own company, right, at the time. And so that was the ultimate sacrifice, right? Your business, your family, we leave, and then I'm me making that drive from California to Utah, another spiritual experience like the one I had driving from San Francisco to California. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make it successful. I'm gonna build the best thing I've ever built. And I'm gonna impact others more than I've ever impacted them. I'm gonna pour into these people as if they're my family, because they are. Yeah. They are. I treat them as my family, and they know I love them. And leadership is, it's a vulnerable thing. It is the most heartbreaking thing, because when you lead with your heart like I do, you say, here's my heart, do what you want with it. And when you make mistakes as a leader, or when people stay with you or they leave you, I'm a true believer. It's if people leave you, it's never their fault. It's your fault, right? And it breaks your heart, but you're the one breaking your own heart. And that's the realization I made over the last year because of the decisions you make as a leader. So I made a decision to show up the best I can, 100% for my people, and all my people have done the same. And we've committed to this creed and who we are. And we hire, fire, reward, and incentivize based on this creed and this standard, right? And nothing's more important. I'm not more important than the creed. I'm not more important than the business. If I'm a liability to the creed, then I'm not the leader. I have to be fired. I told them, you guys have to fire me as your leader if I don't do this, right? And if people are not going to be perfect, right? But they have to quickly course correct if any behaviors that they have and actions aren't aligned with the creed. And if they don't spend, you get to spend a day, maybe misaligned with some of it. You can't spend a week, right? Because unfortunately, nothing's more important than the business and who we are.
Protect
right?
the shield.
We protect the shield at all costs, no matter what. This is who we are. This is how we operate. This is how we behave. And as long as we're all doing that, you always have a seat in my team. I'll never fire you, but the system will.
So I think an important thing, we got like 4 minutes before we got to go ATVing. But a few pieces here, right? It's like his main focus, if you're listening here, is on the behaviors of the business. It's on the behaviors of the team. It's on the entire alignment toward a creed, toward protecting the shield, toward, hey, there's peer-to-peer accountability in this team. If there's anyone off track, it doesn't mean we can't pick you back up and get you going, but you got to understand, like, you got to do it. At the end of the day, like, you still have to do it. And if your behaviors don't change, you can no longer be on this team. And in fact, most of the time, it'll just automatically weed themselves. You don't even have to fire people. When your behaviors are so clear and it's so strong, people will fire themselves.
Yep.
So like everyone's
and the team
like,
fires you.
And when the team fires you, I remember like when I first built a big team within Spartan, got to 100, 150, 160, 170 a month, like right away. Like the culture was that in the morning when our meetings were surrounded by each other, if someone was late or someone was like, effing off and not showing up, literally the team would be like, we got to get rid of this guy. And I'm like, all right, team, it's put to a vote. Do you want to get rid of him? He's like, he's fired. And I'm like, well, you guys fired him. And the guy's like, what do you mean I'm fired? I'm like, I don't know. You talk to them. Like, team, do you guys want to have a meeting and vote on bringing him back or give him another chance? They're like, nope.
Yep.
Oh, you do? Okay. What's his conditions? And so like his, major focus, and for any team, it's like, yes, you have the systems, the technical side, but understand it's the behaviors always. And you've defined, outlined, and embodied those behaviors and reinforced those behaviors within your team. So that's step number one.
Yeah. When your team cares about the standards on your team just as much as you do, and then also enforces those standards just as much as you do.
Yeah.
You have an organization that's going to build itself, and that's where we're at now as a prolific division, the Diamond District, right? Like, we're saying no to people more than we're saying yes, right? Because if you don't like seem as if you fit these behaviors, I can care less about the volume that you think you can do or that you've shown that you've done in the past. Volume means nothing to me right now. It's all about fit, right? And I'm hiring based upon fit and behaviors. And anyone that's hired goes through multiple interviews with me, with the leaders, and I'm not the only one that makes the decision.
Yeah. I mean, I've had you call me to ask me for my advice or opinion on it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a good story that goes with this. Like, how is this even applied? Heard it yesterday. I forget the football player's name, but Bill Belichick, right, of the Patriots, he had someone coming in and was it a running back position?
204 yards, 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns in one preseason game. Like, absolutely lit it up. So basically, like, hey, this is the new superstar.
2015. Yep.
And the next day or the next week, whatever it was.
The next practice,
he showed up late.
Yep.
And Bill Belichick fired their all-star, what looks to be the new GOAT, fired him on the spot. And guess what ended up happening? The team won the Super Bowl
that same year.
And it was the biggest price and the biggest lesson that guy's ever had to pay. Mm-hmm. But Bill Belichick stuck to the behaviors. Like, hey, that's a team norm. Like, we don't, there's no rock star that's going to come here because of performance that doesn't fit the culture that we're going to let here. So I don't think there's a better example of someone. And he was like a second-round draft pick.
Yep.
So he fired a second-round draft pick that absolutely dominated the preseason. He did that in a moment where, like, every team wants to win. So I'm sure the players were even for a second like, wait a second, we kind of need this guy.
Yeah.
And then guess what? The team ends up winning the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And this guy, I don't know what this guy's doing now, but he probably took the biggest hit of his life at that moment because he decided that his performance was more important than the team's culture. Mm-hmm. His behaviors, he thought to himself, like, I could get away with whatever I want. But Bill Belichick, being the all-star leader he is, the best at building teams, he didn't let that, there is no exceptions.
No exception.
And so that's a great way to illustrate the point of, like, how do you even look at the behaviors? Finally, I just want to sum up some things that I've seen Nick do, if that's cool with you, because we got to roll. Number one, like, first commitment after the behaviors, right, was we're going to pick a long-term market that we believe in. We're going to do our research. Okay, we believe in it. We picked it. We have our core leaders. Great. Now we're going to get long-term housing, not Airbnbs. We're going to get long-term housing so there's sustainability and peace for the reps there. We could bring more in, and they could find the success quickly too. Yep. And we can, even myself, right, I know I can help you grow because I know there's a place for people to find success, and it's not a headache figuring all the logistics out. The second thing you've done is once you go ahead.
We meet every day.
You meet every day.
We meet every day.
Every day.
Every day. We read the creed every day, talk about those behaviors, and then we shout out those behaviors on those behaviors every single day.
Who's representing those behaviors?
Who's representing those behaviors, shout out. So we start with a really good feeling in a meeting. It's dialed in terms of training and development on the things that are going to move the needle in terms of performance and KPIs. We measure what matters. We look at the numbers every single day, okay? We have car groups. We drive into the field every single day. Not everybody drives, right? You have to earn that privilege, right? And we work the hours, plain and simple. We're on the field from 2 to 8 p.m. every single day, 6 days a week, sometimes 7. And the leader is leading from the front, all the leaders on the team are leading from the front. We're all doing what we say we do. We all doing what we say when we say we're going to do it. We focus on the whole person paradigm: family, faith, fitness, finance, and fun. So we are developing ourselves and our characters in all of these areas. Family, being the best family member we can be. Fitness, and that's also faith. We go to church every Sunday as a team. Fitness, that's physical and spiritual and mental fitness. Yep. Okay. We are focusing on our finances and financial discipline to make sure that we don't have another group that's going to be broke.
And here's the reality, like this is a simple system anyone could follow. That's why we're in a matter of 3 minutes, we're able to sum up the entire protocol to running a team that does 100, 150, 200. In 3 minutes, you summed up the process, the system. The caveat to all this, again, I just want to reiterate, what you as the leader or the leaders there within the leadership do 10 out of 10 times your people do. What you do 9 out of 10 times, they'll never do. So it is consistency that is the permission slip for other reps, right? So your lack of consistency is their permission slip to never do it.
Yep.
Your full throttle consistency, like this guy just always shows up, that's also their permission slip to do the same.
Yep.
And so you make that decision once you create the structure. Don't make a structure or a system that you yourself cannot follow. That's the biggest mistake of leadership. Like other people will follow this and it will get results. Yeah. So long as other people follow this, I know it's going to work. Well, dude, if you're not a 10 out of 10, if you're not doing that thing, you are giving them the permission slip to absolutely never abide by it, and it's your fault.
Yep.
And so I think we'll do some reels together talking about those systems outside of this podcast, so we can just deliver high impact, simple frameworks to follow.
And then we could do a round 2, part 2 one day. But like there's a lot of, and then the recruiting piece, right? Like big part, a lot of nuggets there.
Work like hell and
advertise.
Come on, baby, it's a formula.
Results equal results. Get the results, then equals receipts.
And recruits.
Receipts equals recruits.
Results, receipts, recruits. No bragawats, baby.
Yeah, that's it, baby. Clean deals.
Dude, thanks for being on here, man. This was epic.
I love you, bro.
Love you, man.
I don't move for applause or a line for a check. I just breathe with a purpose and stand on X. Every line in my story been earned, I guess. I don't follow a path, I correct what's left. Built my spine from pressure, my steps from mash. While most dodge pain, I repurpose the crash. This ain't loud, it's deep, ain't hype, it's depth. This ain't a brand, it's breath, I stand on X.